in I had a realization 4 decades into my life that I discovered that I had been experiencing anxiety for 4 decades, almost every day. Well, not almost, every day, 100% every day. And I had no idea. And I actually thought there was something wrong with me, and I just kept it a secret. Um, yeah, it was pretty full on when I had that realization. And the reason I had that realization is because here's the thing. I think children are our greatest teachers. So my daughter was challenging me, and I was finding parenting my daughter very tough, and she was finding life very tough. And I was trying everything because I was a very well-intentioned parent, yet nothing seemed to be working. So we got to a stage where we actually got to a crisis point, and she was grappling with life and, really feeling like she was a lost soul, and she was angry and tumultuous and rebellious. And I was angry, stressed, confused. We were both not doing well, and our relationship was falling apart too. So I decided that I needed to do something. So I sought help. Help wasn't very helpful. I haven't shared with you before, I don't think, but I say there's helpful help and unhelpful help. And I would say that I didn't receive helpful help. So I'm quite old, I'm 60. So back when my daughter was 16, and I just took my daughter out for lunch yesterday because she's turning 40. So that's a long time ago. So when she was 16, we're talking about here. So so I went looking for help because I did not want to lose my daughter, and I did not want to lose my relationship with my daughter. And I began to realize she couldn't change herself. I was the one that needed to step up and change what I was doing. So I tried, and I didn't get that helpful help that I needed. So I decided to look for it myself and figure it out myself. And that was hard. It was really hard. And back then we didn't have the internet to just pop on and Google and find out things. And there were not as many people in the industry. No one was even talking about anxiety. I discovered it. No one suggested it to me. So it wasn't a thing. So then I became a woman on a mission. And I worked extremely hard on learning more about myself, learning about her, learning about the dynamics of what was happening. And I'm not going to say I personally just all myself, because it came from my daughter as well, but I was able to restore our relationship and begin to rebuild our lives in a positive way, and hers too. And she ended up coming out the other side and is just a beautiful human being. She always was a beautiful human being, but she was someone who was struggling, but now she's thriving. So it's a wonderful thing. She's a mother of 3 beautiful children. She's doing an amazing job as a parent. She's learnt so much, and I believe that I wrote on her card yesterday that she has been my greatest teacher, because she led me to improving myself. The challenges that she was having led me to reflect upon my own life and understand me and understand her. And I'm actually really grateful, although at the time I just was so angry with her and distressed. now I'm just incredibly grateful that she put me through that journey. She took me on that journey because I've learned so much, and it's given me the opportunity to learn about the importance of connection in relationships. And it's given me the opportunity to learn about what anxiety really looks like, what it is, what it means. So yeah, she was 16, so that's about 24 years ago. I started that journey. So the key for me is that I don't want other parents and kids having to go through the 24 years of all that learning. I can shortcut it for them now because I know exactly, I can pinpoint exactly what's going on when I hear a family story or I hear what's going on in someone's life. I can pinpoint, this is what it is, and I can support them straight away because I want them to get helpful help. I don't want them to be mucked around with a health system. No offense to the well-intentioned people in the health system, but there's a lot of people who actually don't know how to support people who are anxious. They're what I describe as missing the point. So I'll talk more about that, but that's really my backstory, along with being a teacher, working in well-being. I then put myself into the wellbeing space. I qualified myself, and I learned all of that because I just started to eat it up. I loved learning about, how we love learning about our own story. We love learning about ourselves. So it helped me to do that. And then I thought, far out, there's so many people that need this information. They need what I've learned, and I can save so many people from years of suffering and pain. And that's what I'm super passionate about, because we've just got too many people that are suffering unnecessarily because they're not getting the right help.
And I would want to add to that that I truly believe there's many of us who are suffering in silence and who maybe don't know what they don't know, as the saying goes,
Yeah.
right? Like you
Oh,
could be
100%.
struggling with something and it makes your body feel overwhelmed and you start to feel like the symptoms of the anxiety, right? Where you feel hot, you feel itchy, you feel confused, you feel, oh my God, where am I? One of my friends recently, he was going through this and he was trying to navigate and understand how is he going to overcome it because he started to be overwhelmed by negative thoughts, right? And
Mm,
he's a personality type where if a negative thought enters his mind, it takes him time to dispel it, right? Many
mm-hmm,
times you have to go through it. Like, you know how there's people out there that they're very prone to negative emotions. Like if they're having a bad day, maybe you and I could take maybe a couple of minutes to overcome it. We'll think of something positive. Where him and many others, they dwell on it. What did I do? Where did I go wrong? Oh my God, it's overwhelming. And he ended up in the hospital because his heart rate was increasing and increasing and increasing. And I share this story because it shows that if we're not understanding ourselves, or if we don't get an understanding or at least control over what is driving us to feel this anxiety, it can overwhelm us, right?
oh,
So
yeah.
for you, when you were working on yourself and when you're trying to help others deal with the anxiety, parenting is such a big source of anxiety.
Mm-hmm,
Am I going to be a
mm-hmm,
good parent? Are my kids going to grow up to be successful? If they're
mm-hmm,
bad kids, what does that say about me? Right?
mm.
When you're dealing with that, how do you try to quiet that voice that is maybe second guessing everything that you're doing?
Oh, okay. You asked really good questions. I do love them. um, yeah, okay. How do we quiet that voice? Um, is it okay if I just wind back a little bit? Because I love the story you shared there. So, all humans have a negative bias. It's our natural, protective, primitive instinct to notice fear or danger or problems so that we can rectify them. So our old caveman primitive days needed that. They needed us to be alert and be on guard because that was any life-threatening danger, we needed to act. So we've all got that in us still. We've got that primitive part of ourselves. Some people, I'm going to say, are better at being more alert, noticing negative things. And the theory goes, the science behind this is that every populations are meant to have different personality types. We're meant to have the people who were able to alert the tribe of danger. We also need the people who are not going to spend all their day worrying about that because they need to get on with doing other things for the people. So there's value in being someone who can notice things that are going wrong and who can alert people of things. The trouble is we can get caught in a rabbit hole of noticing negative things, a dark hole where we can't get ourselves back out of it because all we're doing is noticing things. And this is a very primitive part of our brain. I think it's been described as 500 million years old, like, millions of years old. So maybe it was 5 million, I don't know, but a lot of years old. So we needed that though, but it's old and it's a primitive part of it. So when we are aware that this is the primitive part of us coming up, and we're not living in the same world, the same way back then, when we're aware that our body is interpreting, our mind and body is interpreting it as danger, then we can do something about it. And we can go, oh, okay, wait a minute. I know my body's telling me I'm not safe. My mind's telling me I'm not safe. But actually, am I? And if we can get to that stage where we can reflect and ground ourselves by taking a breath, calming our nervous system, and then beginning to move out of our fear protective part of our brain dominating us and move into our prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, sensible, smart, the part of our brain, the intelligence part of our brain. If we can activate that and activate our executive functioning, we then have the ability to be rational and think it through. But if we get caught up in that old primitive part of our brain, it's irrational. It's because it's simply protecting us from danger. So no point trying to ask it to recite a poem or anything. No, I haven't got time for that. I've got to save my life. So that's why children and other people can't listen or hear any logic because they're in survival mode. And this, so what's happened is it's translated into our life now. We actually have got lots of, we live in a very overstimulating world. And we are now being presented with a lot more information, pictures, images, noise, things to worry about. And we've got a lot of sophistication and complexities in our lives. So there's a lot of brains, as to be expected, are getting mixed up with, is this a life-threatening problem or is this something I can manage and I can handle and I can work through? So having that, being aware that this is my primitive part, it's in control. We've either got it in control or I'm in control. And my prefrontal cortex, I'm in control. And having that ability to be able to get ourselves in the driver's seat, get back into us being in the driver's seat takes some skill, takes some learning, I share loads and loads of things that you can do to really, really get back to grounding yourself, creating space between what we think is the problem and us responding to it. Rather than reactivity, we go into responsibility. Responsibility meaning the ability to respond rather than react. So if we create that space between us, that's super, super important. So that's how we get overwhelmed with negative thoughts, because we fall into the rabbit hole of that primitive part of our brain. And we're thinking, oh, but what if that happens? And what if that happened? And and we're talking ourselves into the fear. And we continue to talk ourselves into the fear. So when you said that some people are prone to negative emotions, yes, some people are prone to noticing negativity. But in a way, it's kind of a good thing, because they're the ones who used to save the tribe. And they're the ones who are in the meeting with some big corporate organization and say, did anyone think of looking at the stats on blah, blah? Because remember last time when we did this and that happened? And they're the ones who can actually often point out a risk. And they've got this incredible skill. I'm going to put myself in this, we have this incredible skill of being analytical and being able to weigh up a situation. If you're in your prefrontal cortex, you can utilize this beautiful skill. You can also utilize this beautiful skill because we notice negative emotions, and we notice when